Hello and welcome back to the Manica Rubida challenge. Um, First of all, a few thank yous to everyone who's got involved, anyone who's watching this who's got involved. So there's lots of people who've got involved basically. There's obviously people who are TikTokers and Instagram people and YouTube people and Facebook people, and then we've got some of the ant suppliers, Antantics, Ant Lady, Wakushi, they've all been heavily involved. And obviously I didn't really want to do this till after the heat wave because I had a bad time with the heat wave last time, but mine has survived. I ended up on the second day having to have them on the downstairs toilet floor and putting a damp towel over the top. The first day I was using like a frozen sponge over the end of the outwheels and things like that, but anyway I got them through and they seem healthy. Yeah, so my cooling tips, best thing I found that kept it for the longest was a damp towel, basically. Coolest place in damp towel. Yeah, we've got loads of people with loads of different setups going on. These are just the ones off the top of my head. We've got natural setups. We've got Waitong, kept very wet. And that's already been quite successful, like up to 20 odd workers. We've had soil nests, so like I think it's an EA nest with a soil nest attached, which they've used and then moved back out again, moved back in, moved back out. They all do that. We've got bamboo tubes. Quite a lot of different people are using bamboo tubes, and that makes sense because they're more humid than a standard test tube. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong way here. I mean, in fact, I like the fact everyone's doing different things because that helps me not do different things and not trying things out all the time. We've got test tubes. Quite a few people just keep them in bog standard shop conditions test tubes. Just cuts out a lot of the variables and obviously it works. They grow in shop conditions. Then obviously artificial nests. We've got Wakushi, we've got EA, we've got high-tech ants. There's so many more that I don't know. People, I don't know everything. Anyway, there's been a few discoveries and things that have been sort of discovered and found out, which is basically they're not that good, it seems, at extracting water from cotton in cotton tubes. So it helps like push the cotton down a little, which will dampen it. So when you feed it, if you can push the cotton down a little, it will dampen it. This is obviously if you're in a test tube setup, and I can't do that. Mine's in a Venus. And also smaller test tubes where the cotton is sort of harder packed. Colonies have not done as well. A lot of this is Sid's information. Sid Wakushi has been, has had 18 queens going. The challenge, trying to work out a few things about them. So one other discovery was the ones that are in the smaller tubes all developed slightly slower than the ones in the bigger tubes, and the deciding factor there could have been the access to water, basically. So maybe water has a big bearing on their future survival. There's extra drinkers might be a good idea. Whatever setup you've got, and it is a test tube, if you can supply an extra drinker, then it's definitely going to be a good idea, I think, just to be sure. And then obviously we've all found out that if they've got access to a substrate of any description, they love it, absolutely love it. Move it around, dig all over the place, they just absolutely love it. So from a welfare point of view, maybe that's a good thing to do. I don't know whether it's necessary or not. I don't know, but they seem to really like it. And certainly when you put them into a setup, it's useful because they can sort of block themselves up and make themselves feel comfortable. Tiny little hole, come out to feed, then they block themselves up again. In my world, that's good. That's an ant looking after itself and choosing when it wants to come out and being happy. Or controlling the humidity. Like mine really blocked up about half the tube, not just the entrance. Really cut it down, and then the tube went all moist. So I think that was a good thing for them. There's been a bit of debate about food size. I've gone for smaller things which are easier to drag in. So I'm chopping up a small crickets and just letting them drag it in and put the lava on them. But I didn't start off like that. I started off with a big chunk of roach, and she was eating that and feeding her babies with it without any real problem. And then she had fruit flies, and she was doing that with them. Well, they all disappeared, never saw her catch them. Yeah, so what have we got here? Yeah, and then there's other things which obviously these queens don't really survive that well, and there could be an issue with fertility anyway. It could be like if you had 100 queens, kept 100 queens, maybe 98 of them will die anyway, just because in the wild only 2 are strong enough to survive. It could be a fertility thing because some people have got queens, same supplier, same queen turned up, the same amount of brood, and one's really taken off and the other's just sitting there with hardly anything or not laying eggs and things like that. So there could be fertility issues with Manica Rubida that are not to do with the environment that you're keeping them in. say Wakushi's done quite. I actually watched him do some speed dating with multiple queens, trying to work out if you could get multiple queens. And there was a thing where you could get sort of aggressive ones and passive ones, and putting the passive ones together seemed to work. But whether that was because they were passive or whether they were from the same nest, so they had the same smell, so they were the same pheromones, so they'd accept each other, whereas the others wouldn't. There's no way of knowing where they've all come from. So I wouldn't advise buying 5 queens and chucking them together, because they'll just have a big fight. But yeah, it's not particularly advisable, I think is the best way of putting it. But it is possible that one of the successes or the ways they found in the wild is to do with, you know, a couple of queens get together from the same nest. They found eventually one gets killed off, because Lynn had this. This is Ninaturu. She had a 2-queen colony, and it was going well till up to about 5 workers, and then all of a sudden the workers started ganging up on one of the queens. So it's possible, a bit like Flavis, where they can found all together and they start picking the queens off one after another, and they use it as a way of sort of boosting the initial colony. Don't know. I'm trying something like that with Rubra at the moment. I've just put, I think it's 8 queens together, Rubra queens that I picked the other night. But Rubra are the same sort of category as this. We've got single queens, they're not known to really found successfully. So that's it really, it's just a quick update. The video I've just made is too short, so I'm gonna have to add some more video, or I don't know, extend some of the pictures or something. But yeah, so I just wanted to keep everyone up to date with what we've done. Sorry if you've had to lost loads of ants in the heat wave. I think I've lost 3 queens basically I know about, which is not good, but it's a lot better than it has been. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next update. Bye bye. Stop this now. That's cool. Got it.